Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bunch of Nuts podcast. I'm Dan here with Big Cass. Cass is rocking a Roosters shirt. He is not a paid promotional employee of Roosters, but he's just rocking the Roosters shirt. We love to see it, man. It's a fire shirt.
Yeah, I bought this shirt I think last year. Walked into the Roosters one time and was eating dinner, and the waitress asked if I wanted the employee discount and asked me what store I worked at, and I was like, "Nope, just bought it off of Homage."
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah, I mean Roosters. I mean they're a great bird. Not a great bird is Iowa, the Hawkeye. So let's just get into it. The worst offense I've ever seen, Cass.
Dude, that offense was putrid. It's hard to explain on how bad they were. Uh, it it was terrible. Like, I was down on the sidelines and like for a little bit, and there was like during the warmups, there was like no like energy out of their offensive players. Now their defensive players, there was a lot of energy. I'll give you that. We'll get more into that in a little bit. But that offense was terrible.
Like when you're on the sideline, did they look like athletes, D1 athletes is my question, or is it what did you gather? Is it more of a coaching thing or is it an athlete thing?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I mean, you could tell the players weren't, they're not wanting to play for
Brian
or
whatever his son is.
Yeah, wherever's. Yeah, you could tell. You could just tell by the energy, but you can also tell by the energy of the defense. Like, like they're tired of it. Like the defense, Ohio State still put up 40 points, 40 plus points of total of offense on Iowa's defense. And I think a lot of that in the second half, they were just tired. They were tired of being on the field. Like that offense, I think if they really wanted to, that offense wouldn't have got a first down, in my opinion. Like,
yeah, I mean, I will say this, like, I give Iowa credit because they only held us to 66 yards rushing. They forced a couple turnovers. Obviously, they put up the only touchdown of the team of the game for Iowa. So I thought, the defense basically did as much as they could. It's just there's no offense. So I know defense wins championships, but offense keeps you in games, and that was a game where I think if Iowa had a competent offense that could compete, it could have been a lot closer. It could have been a lot interesting. Petrus and Padilla are terrible too.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, but it begins to show you though how good Ohio State's offense is. I mean, it's like a tale of two things. I mean, if it's like you read all the comments and saying Ohio State's run game is not very good. It's like they had one bad game. I mean, it goes to show you that Ohio State can beat you if they only have one dimension. Mm-hmm. It really does. Like Iowa, we could have thrown on Iowa all day.
It kind of felt like the opposite of the Notre Dame game because that wasn't our best game either. And that one we won by just kind of like running a power offense with Mayan. This game was kind of the opposite. We kind of shied away from the run and really tried to spread them out and put points on the board.
Right. And I mean, it goes to show you, like, how good this Ohio State team is. And it's going to be fun to watch, especially this weekend when we will be truly battle tested when it comes to emotions of a game. And, I mean, I still think I'm not worried about Penn State. I'm just worried about the emotion of the game.
Okay.
But, like going back to the Ohio State game, and as much as we love Jackson Smith and Jigba, in which there is some unsure news right now. I'm going to call it unsure news because there's a lot of mixed things about Jackson Smith and Jigba. But I felt like when because Jackson Smith and Jigba was on a pitch count, when he was taken out of the game, all of a sudden CJ found his rhythm.
Well, yeah, they were trying to almost force it to him. It felt like
it was,
and it's fine. Get him involved. I get it, but it's just we were kind of doing. I feel like sometimes we do try to force the ball to the wrong guy, and once again we were also. It was some of the play calling was questionable. Once again we were running outside plays with Mayan and inside plays with Travion. And it's just like, I understand, you have your tendency breakers and all that just to kind of throw off the scouting report. But like, let's just keep it simple. I think we're kind of overthinking this because I don't know why, I think it was like that third down after a timeout, we ran that terrible play with Mayan, and it just wasn't a right play call for his skill set. And that's not Mayan's fault at all. But I also thought too, like, you're absolutely right. The first half was pretty dreadful in my opinion, and we ended up winning by like 50 points or 44. And I can't wait from this game, like realizing like, hey, that's scary, because in the first half, I was generally kind of upset. I was like, we're playing terrible. We're coming out of the bye slow. We don't look good. Stroud's going to lose the Heisman. I was being overreactionary, obviously. And obviously everything was fine after halftime adjustments. And it just, that's a testament, because other teams in the top, 10 have played full games poorly. We only played a bad half for the most part, and still won by 44.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Sorry, folks. I'm on my phone right now. I'm trying to plug my phone in because of my 10% battery came on. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I just think, a little bit of bye week rust too could have been a factor.
Yeah.
And I think that our offense, I think we're going to be just fine. I did think, okay, first half we played really poorly, but our defense made up for it, and we still got in the red zone. We just, for some reason, we couldn't score in a red zone. Thank God for Noah Ruggles. It's not like we played poorly. I just think maybe bad execution and maybe some bad play calling a little bit.
Yeah, it also Stroud in the first half definitely looked off. I would say the play, not even the turnovers. I thought the play he looked off the most was when he had Ibuka kind of down the seams on, I believe it was like either a seam route or like a skinny post, some type of route like that. It was like the first or second drive, and Ibuka didn't turn his head, but Stroud should have at least given him a better ball. It was a little over his head, and honestly could have been picked.
Yeah, but that second half, he was dropping dimes, man. Like, oh man, his passes, and then Julian Fleming getting separation and almost losing the ball in the sun and still making this catch for that big long touchdown. I mean, even if you go back to he throws that pick and he tried to force that pick, that pass, but ever since that, he was balling. But also too, like, that sack, Donovan Jackson, I don't know what he was doing. I think this was Donovan Jackson's worst game Saturday.
The touchdown?
Yes.
Yeah, and it was apparent too, because they had I was texting you this as it happened.
I was driving. I have funny Gus Johnson story, by the way.
I was texting you this because it was like they lined up with 4 men, and we had 5 linemen. So right then, like, we have the numbers right there, and their edge guy did like a little twist. It looked like, or maybe not even a twist. He just kind of like, just went around the defensive tackle, just looped in behind him. And for some reason, the entire left side of our line, it wasn't on the offensive tackle. Zero shot that was on the tackle. It was center guard miscommunication.
It was a situation where, I played offensive line, so I really watched the offensive line. In a place like that, when the offensive tackle on a play like that, it's a pass play. Their first instinct, you're taking the last man off the ball, no matter what. Mm-hmm. So when the defensive end does a stunt like that right there, Luke Whitefield took the nose guard. That left Donovan Jackson just wasn't looking or something. Mm-hmm. Like, it happened so fast too. And kudos to Iowa right there. And I think that was a play where, okay, Donovan Jackson's like, oh, I know the play. It's going to be a simple pass, pass pro. CJ is going to deliver a strike. We're going to get a first down. I just think he took a play off.
It's a good teaching moment for him. He's going to learn from that and obviously get better. And I'm sure they're going to coach him up in the film room. It's definitely absolutely correctable. Luckily, it just was a bad play all around. And then Stroud too could have, he held it too long, obviously. And but at the end of the day, though, you can't have your quarterback getting hit like that on a 4-man rush when you got 5 protected.
And I rewatched the game. Stroud would have had to get. It was 1.8 seconds, meaning he should have got it out in 1.6, basically.
Yeah, it's like, so it would, by like NFL, like you would like to see him make that play for like via NFL standards, because in the NFL, which obviously he's going to probably be in next year, he's going to have to process that a lot quicker. But for college football standards, I didn't think he held it that long, if that makes sense. No,
it was like 1.8 seconds. I mean,
the guy shot out of his stance like a cannon. I'll give him credit. Like, it was a great play.
Yeah. But all in all, I thought, we played great. Tommy Eichenberg, somebody mentioned he's digging his tree with his bare hands. I completely agree. Zach Harrison might be the MVP of this defense outside of Tommy Eichenberg.
The stat guy definitely got his stats wrong, because after the game too, you looked at the stats, and he put up good numbers, but it was like he definitely did more. I felt like.
Let me tell you, I've been preaching this for the past 2 years, and you know this, man. I'm a big Zach Harrison guy, and he has done for the past 2 years. He has done so much, especially in the run game, of creating havoc.
Yeah,
he's forced so many double teams, and I think the reason why a lot of people want to call him a bust is because he doesn't have the stats. But if you watch the film, the dude is creating havoc. This year for Zach Harrison happens. You have a better scheme for your linebackers, and you have better scheme for your defensive linemen. That's what I think he's being noticed for, because you didn't have that scheme, and you didn't have the athletes as you did last year, as you do this year.
I think too, moving him inside, a little inside. He's not like a true defensive tackle, but they'll play him, in kind of in that spot at times, which is nice. It's so hard, I think, like with a big offensive tackle, sometimes those guys are freaks. Like, they're athletic freaks. Like, they could match up against him. I don't think a guard or center can athletically match up against him that well. What's
crazy is Michigan State. It was Michael Hall Jr., Zach Harrison, JT Tuamela, Jack Sawyer, or Javonte Jean-Baptiste. They rotate, JTT and Javonte Jean-Baptiste rotate. This week, it was Deron Cage, and I forgot Tyleek Williams last week with Michigan State too. This week, it was Deron Cage, Tyron Vincent with Zach Harrison. I love the fact that Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson are using the depth that they have at defensive tackle, but also putting the best 4 guys at defensive tackle on there to the scheme of the offenses that we're playing. I don't know what Iowa was running. I know it's like an old-fashioned 1970s style offense, but what do they do? They're big. But what do they do this week? They know Iowa runs the ball more. Guess what? They're using their bigger defensive tackles along with moving Zach Harrison inside. I just love how versatile Zach Harrison has been this year.
Yeah, no, I love it too. And another guy who's been kind of versatile, kind of segueing in the secondary, is Lathan Ransom. And he is a Thorpe Award semifinalist, which is crazy, but I love it. He's been playing fantastic.
Our 3 safeties are unbelievable. Like,
oh yeah,
Ronnie Hicks, Tanner McAllister. Tanner McAllister doesn't leave the field, by the way. That dude, I love how he's came in, and I love the fact that we knew this coming in. Lathan Ransom, better practice player, better player overall. Josh Proctor's non-factor. He doesn't even see the field on special teams.
It's crazy. Yeah, and I never thought he was like a bad player. So I always thought he was a good player for us, and he's kind of the odd man out. Sadly, it's that's crazy, but it's nice also having him, in the wings because someone's gonna get a targeting penalty soon, and I'm calling it. Like Proctor's gonna make a big play this season. He's gonna have a big moment, either a big hit or a pick. Like he's gonna see the field eventually and make a big play.
I love the fact that this week too, J.K. Johnson and Denzel Burke, like, didn't need to, their names weren't even called just because how dominant our safeties, linebackers, and defensive linemen were.
I believe Burke didn't Burke make that special teams tackle with Caden Curry.
Caden Curry, what was the punter doing?
He stuck him too. He held his ground, just manhandled that dude.
Anyways, but a solid victory, and I love that the fact I've looked at some of my coworkers this week. I was like, I love the fact that we're nitpicking a 44-point win.
Oh, that's what Ohio State, Twitter,
Yep.
social media. That's what we do best. We
Yep.
get annoyed about the dumbest things. I will say this too, Cass. Our special teams, I would give them an A+ for the game.
I give our defense A+, and I give our offense an A-. I really do.
I give our special teams an A+. I thought, it's rare that Kirk Ferentz gets outbeat on special teams, but I felt like, between the punt fake that went wrong, the Ruggles going 4-4 on field goals, looking great. Jesse Mikro pinning them consistently inside the 5. And I believed we had a 1 punt return for 16 yards. So that's decent. I mean, getting 16 yards on a punt return. The only thing that I guess was bad was the kickoff where we got a personal foul, which I don't know why we got a personal foul on the first play. I didn't see anything. It didn't make sense to me.
You know, an interesting stat though, Ohio State has punted 11 times this year. Michigan fans are gloating about this. Michigan has punted 10 times this year. Ohio State is 11. 7 of those times Ohio State has punted, our backups were in.
Mm-hmm.
That's an insane stat I saw on Twitter today. But yeah, I mean, I think overall, great win, great weekend. I have a funny story about Fox. Gus Johnson doesn't like stadium hot dogs. He thinks they're bad, which I tend to agree. He did like the nachos. Friday, we go to the grocery store for Joel and Gus. Come back. Gus is demanding liquid IV tangerine flavor and 2 peach yogurt. Okay, go back to Giant Eagle, buy that stuff. Okay. After the game Saturday, we are unloading the coolers. By the way, Gus Johnson takes away and he puts his name on his liquid IV and takes it with him. Which, by the way, his first words to me after the game was, "The Buckeyes beat that ass."
I love that.
And we're unpacking the cooler, and lo and behold, 2 peach yogurts sitting in the cooler.
Sometimes you just sometimes you ask for something. Like I do that with like Brie. Like I'll just be like, "Oh, get this from the grocery store," and then I just won't eat it. And it's not because like I don't want it. It's just like sometimes I forget about it. So I think we all like Gus at some time in our life. Like I think that's normal.
It probably is. But I asked Joel Klatt this. I was like, Joel, CJ Stroud, Ohio State, Blake Corum, Michigan. The winner of that game takes home the Heisman. He agreed with me because he believes that Georgia's going to beat Tennessee, which will take Hendon Hooker out of the conversation.
Yeah, that is probably the most important game besides the Ohio State Michigan game. The way it's shaping up, it's
Tennessee might want to watch out for this weekend too. Depends because Kentucky's coming off a bye. Just saying.
I don't know if that's necessarily good though, because like on paper it seems really good because you're coming out healthy, but you're also coming out rusty.
But it also depends what Kentucky team that shows up to. But we have a game this week.
We do. A big one.
In Happy Valley. State thinks they're unrivaled, but by the way, we are their number one rivals. I don't care what anybody says. We are their number one rivals. Penn State, I saw this funny stat. Penn State is since 2005, has beat us more times than anybody, 4 times. Michigan State and Clemson right there at number 2 with 3. It's a big game, though. Happy Valley, noon, stripe out for Penn State. For some reason, this is the first Penn State game in the last 4 or 5 years that I feel really confident about. And I have no reason why.
I think just because how dominant we looked. So currently we're projected 79.6% chance to win, 20.4% chance to lose. And I believe that is actually the highest chance we've had of losing entire season. Which does concern me. And this is the game where prior to going into the season, this is the one game where it's been less dominant, I guess, looking at like the matchup going into it, if that makes sense. Just because it's like we said, it's at Penn State, it's a noon game. It's gonna be a little weird that it's not in the whiteout.
First 2001.
Yeah, and I will say this though. Here's the bright side about this. I'm not saying we need to lose. We're gonna lose, but like I feel like this is the one game we could actually lose and still make the playoff, if that makes sense. Because a loss to Penn State, and I'm just like, this is just like me talking like a crazy guy. If we lose this game, we'll still have a loss to probably like a top 10 team because Penn State will be in the top 10. It's at Happy Valley. We still win out. We control our own fate most likely. So I think, regardless, we're going to make like this game, believe it or not, is not as important for us as it should be. With that being said, I think we should easily win.
I think this game is really, really for us. Obviously, especially with Ryan Day and what he's been preaching, physicality, competitive stamina, being the aggressor, all that fun stuff. And starting out fast. And I think that's what Ohio State wants to do. Mm-hmm. And by the way, a lot of people are saying, Penn State got Sean Clifford. He's been there forever. But once that dude gets rattled, it's over. Like, it is over. Like, I mean
they're talking about putting in the freshman at this point over him.
Last week, I know they won 45-17, but I kind of look at it this way. Minnesota had nobody to rattle Sean Clifford. We have 2 solid linebackers and 6 defensive linemen that could rattle Sean Clifford. The only bright spot for Penn State is Sean Clifford can use his feet. And Finn from Toledo was only the last quarterback that we played that used his feet. Even though I think the Buckeyes did a solid job, but I mean, Penn State's solid. They got Sean Clifford. They got the freshman phenom running back, who I think, in my opinion, is the second best running back in the Big Ten. Outside of Blake Corum, I think Blake Corum is the best running back in the Big Ten, and I think it's the kid from Penn State, and then our 2 guys.
I mean, Nicholas Singleton is averaging 6.8 yards a rush, 7 TDs on the year on the ground. He's definitely a problem. Not much of a threat receiving the ball, but he's still a good player, very good player. I mean, honestly, Cass,
I think too, and I think you might be going into this. And I think this, I might be reading your mind. I think the unknown about Penn State is how good can their wide receivers be, because we're so used to seeing a Jahan Dotson on that side. Even their tight ends, Gesicki, Fairmouth. We're used to seeing those guys, and they don't have those guys. No. KJ Hamler was the other one too.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not to it. Like a very Penn State wide receiver group.
I would say Brenton Strange is probably their best. I mean, he's their tight end. He's one of their best offensive weapons. He's broken a couple big plays this year too. Like the week 1 against Purdue, he broke like a 75-yard touchdown at the end of the half. So he's explosive. But yeah, like Parker Washington and Mitchell Tinsley, they're both, 388 yards for Parker Washington, 340 yards for Mitchell Tinsley, 1 touchdown for Washington, 4 touchdowns for Tinsley. They're not setting the world on fire for sure. They're serviceable, they're decent, but they don't scare me.
I think the biggest issue with Penn State is their offensive line. They really, really struggled against Michigan, and I think Ohio State has just as good, or maybe if not better, defensive linemen than Michigan. And I think that this could really be the difference maker between Ohio State and Penn State this weekend, because once, like I said, once Sean Clifford gets rattled, he's not going to make those throws. He's not, you know what I mean? It's all up to the offensive line, and what they can hold up against our D line.
Yeah, it's also too, we can't just not shoot ourselves in the foot, because that's what we did last year against Penn State for the most part. We had so many holding penalties, false starts, and it's funny because Penn State's, their lines are always, I always feel like, we have them outgunned and outmanned when it comes to our offensive defensive line, but their lines always play incredibly tough. Similar to kind of how Iowa was. Not the biggest, not the strongest, but like they're very tenacious. And there's always, like, Penn State always has like 1 or 2 defensive linemen who are usually like a fat meatball defensive tackle who just love to like start stuff against us. And they literally have their own BB Landers, it feels like. With that being said, though, the only team that can beat Ohio State in the Big Ten is Ohio State.
Yeah. And maybe Michigan, but
maybe we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ohio State's offense is going to score points. I mean, the only test I see is their DBs are really good.
That's what concerns me.
Yeah, but I also think Mayan and Travion can get going, which is going to help our DBs. But the problem with their DBs is Michigan don't have a serviceable tight end. We do. We also have 3 solid wide receivers. Michigan don't.
Well, I would say, like, I feel like this game.
I'm not talking about Jackson Smith-Jigba. I'm talking about the emergence of Julian Fleming. Like,
I don't think it's going to be. I think this is the game where Travion or Mayan has a big day, because we saw against Michigan they couldn't stop a nosebleed. So they're not going to stop Travion or Mayan.
I also think this could be the game where Stroud can recapture that Heisman moment.
Yeah, and I also would say too that I mean, their DBs are very good. Joey Porter Jr., Jair Brown. They're not only are they hard hitting, they're really good at
corners are good. Their safeties.
They're good at punching the ball out, I think. I mean, I think honestly their secondary is pretty good in my opinion.
They are. No, I'm saying it definitely will be the best secondary we play all year.
So it's like, I wouldn't necessarily try to force the ball to guys. Like if like Joey Porter Jr. is going to be covering, let's say, Emeka Egbuka, just for example. I don't know who he's going to be covering, but let's say he's covering him. Let's not try to force feed Emeka. If Joey Porter's like shutting him down, let's say, I would like to see Ryan Day just, okay, that's not going to work. Let's just call, something that is going to work, like handoff in the middle to up the gut to Mayan Williams, which is like 5-6 yards a pop. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't need to look flashy in this game. We just need to literally, I'm happy with like a 10-point win. It's fine. It's Penn State. Like, you're never going into Happy Valley and getting a victory is never going to hurt your chances in the rankings in my view.
I don't think so either. I mean, I'm ready to make my score prediction. I mean, I think Ohio State does. I think they do a great job in the passing game. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. makes some great catches. I just think our wide receivers will be too much for their DBs. We all obviously, I mean, the dude from Purdue was awesome. Like, he was able to get open and all that stuff. That's why I'm not really like too concerned about their DBs. Great, but they are great DBs. I'm ready for my score prediction, and I said it earlier today. I'm going 38, Ohio State 38, and I'm going 14 Penn State.
I'll go. Let me run the math on this real quick. Hold on.
The spread's still 17.
Yeah. Let's say I'm gonna say Ohio State 35, Penn State 21.
You got to keep in mind this team only scored 17 points on Northwestern. I mean,
yeah, but we're Ohio State. I think we're gonna get their best effort. They're also gonna have the home crowd. I also think I truly believe I think we're gonna come out a little sluggish. And if we come out a little sluggish like we did against Iowa, it's just because it's like this part of the season, the weird noon games in the middle of October, early November. I feel like we're always kind of sluggish for a couple week span.
I think we're up for this game, and then it's the next couple of weeks where they're a little sluggish.
That's fair. I mean, you could say that. That's your opinion. I just think 35-21, it's a win. We're gonna have the same taste in our mouth, I think, about the Iowa game. It was a win, but we didn't play our best, but we got the job done. And that's all that matters at this point in the season.
I think too, this is just my opinion, obviously. I think with the rankings coming out Tuesday, I think Ohio State wants to make a message and send a message.
That's a great point, actually. I didn't even think of that.
So, I mean, but hey, it's Ohio State, Penn State. Either score could be right, like either score, or it could be a 1-point victory. It's Ohio State, Penn State.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be a crazy game. This has always traditionally been one of the best games of the year too. That's what I love about this game, and especially when we come out on the right side of victory. But I always feel like this game it has a chance to be one of the best games of the year. Like 2016, obviously when Penn State won, insane. 2017, the JT Barrett comeback, insane. 2018, the Ben Victor touchdown, insane. And then the past couple of years have been all right. 2019 was solid. 2020 was kind of a stinker. Last year was good. It wasn't close. It wasn't like last year wasn't exciting.
Historically, it's been a great game.
Yeah.
05, it was in 2005 they beat us. I mean, I don't really. 06 was a Troy Smith to Rubisky classic. 07 we beat them in Happy Valley in a whiteout. I mean,
I will say too, this is a chance for Ohio State to get a signature win. If Ohio State blows the doors off them, then I'm gonna be very excited because then that's kind of really not that we didn't know this, but that's confirmation that this team is truly legit. If they wake up early, go to Penn State at noon and blow the doors off them, like a very good Penn State team too, I think. That's scary, especially if you couple that with the Iowa victory. What we just did, you can definitely make argument then at that point that Ohio State should come in at number 1 in the rankings.
Absolutely. Real quick, we're not going to run down the freaking schedule because we don't really need to. The 2023 schedule came out. Indiana at Indiana week 1. And that tough in the middle. I mean, of course, you got your non-conference games. You got the 2 at home, the 1 at Notre Dame, and then the 4-game gauntlet. I'm sorry, I'm calling it the 4-game gauntlet. You have Maryland at Penn State. No, I mean, is it? It's like Maryland, Penn State. No, at Wisconsin, Michigan State, I believe. Hold on, let me look real quick. Oh, yeah. Maryland at Purdue, Penn State at Wisconsin. 4-game gauntlet in the middle of the season next year. Our bye week is week 5. Your quick thoughts on the 2023 schedule.
I love the first. I mean, look, we're going to be 3-0. No doubt in my mind. It's the easiest 3-0 of our lives, which is great because we're probably going to be ushering a new quarterback, and we'll obviously get into that in the offseason. And then obviously Notre Dame, but then after Notre Dame's the bye week. So we should easily be what?
Yeah, I said, and then it's the gauntlet.
Yeah, I don't think that's the worst gauntlet, to be honest. It's Maryland, Purdue, Penn State, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Michigan State, Minnesota, Michigan. what worries me is the Michigan State, Minnesota, Michigan, specifically the Minnesota game. I think is the one that kind of stands out in between Michigan State and Michigan. Wisconsin, I don't know where we're gonna get because they're kind of ushering in a new regime there.
The reason why I say those two games, the Purdue and at Wisconsin and at Purdue, because it's there. If it was home, I wouldn't be calling it a gauntlet if it was home games.
If they're night games, I would be a little concerned.
Which comes to my thing. It's going to be interesting. I was really looking at it. We know Youngstown State is going to be BTN. We know that the interesting thing that Indiana game is a Saturday. I think with it being a conference game, that is CBS. It's got CBS written all over it. 3:30 CBS opening weekend.
I could see that. And then Western Kentucky, probably BTN, I would say.
I'm going to say Fox, 8:00, Tim Brando, Spencer Tillman.
Okay. I can see that.
Kind of like we did with Toledo.
Yeah.
And obviously Wisconsin, that is NBC night game.
For sure.
I think big noon kickoff at Purdue.
What about Notre Dame?
Notre Dame's NBC because it'd be NBC. Yeah.
Not ABC? Not game day?
We will know. We are no longer ESPN. No games.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Notre Dame. Now they can be there because guess what? Notre Dame is not in a conference.
Mm-hmm.
I think obviously Michigan, the big noon kickoff. Penn State at home against Penn State. That's the interesting one. Will it be big noon kickoff or I think big noon kickoff because the game. It's big noon kickoff is going to have the marquee game. People are going to hate it or not, but I will say this: for here on out, Penn State, Ohio State will be big noon kickoff.
I don't got a problem with that being big noon kickoff.
In Happy Valley, then I believe NBC will get it because they want that a night game whiteout.
I'm just tired. I'm not gonna lie. I as a younger man on this podcast years ago, I used to complain, oh, we're having too many noon games. And then this year we haven't had enough noon games. So it's like
now we're about to get 3 back-to-back last week, this week, next week. So
I love the noon games, honestly. I've got grown so accustomed to it because it's just like you get it out of your way early.
Yeah. I just can't wait for the 3:30 CBS game. Maybe Penn State. Oh, Penn State, Ohio State, 3:30 CBS.
That makes sense. That would totally make sense. That's like the SEC slot. So yeah, I could see that.
I like the fact that CBS and Fox, because I do believe that both those networks bring a better product on the TV, except for the announcers. I mean, I could do without Gary Danielson, but I will say this: outside of Herbie and Fowler, it's Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt. I mean, hands down. So interesting. We'll get more into that next year. I love doing the network prediction. I do love that. So,
ESPN data proves
guess it's that time.
I just want to read this real quick. ESPN data proves Iowa would have been more successful punting on every first down at Ohio State. Yeah.
Okay.
All
right. It's that time of the week. We need to gather. I think after this week, I think we need to gather up and see what our records are for the year. I don't have pen and paper on here to write these down. You might have to remember these. But the pick'ems.
All right. I have low energy tonight. I'm just feel sick. Feel exhausted from the week.
You're fine.
I think everyone's sick right now.
Well, I have a sore foot, so I have stitches.
How is this?
I'm going to throw.
this week?
I'd like to start with my tiebreaker.
All right.
Boston College -7.5 at UConn. I'm taking Boston College.
I'm going to start off with mine. Utah at Washington State. Utah has 7.5 favorite. Give me Utah covering that easily.
Okay.
We're starting off with our tiebreakers this week.
Yeah. All right. Let's start with another noon game. Number 7 TCU, undefeated. They're 7-point favorites at West Virginia. I'm taking TCU there.
I agree. I like TCU.
No one's guarding that number 1 receiver.
Dude, I think they're in the playoffs. I really do.
I mean, that one kid, number 1, what's his name? Johnston or Quentin
Something
Johnston.
like
Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, something like that.
He's a great player. I mean, you could definitely make the argument that he should be a Biletnikoff Award finalist. Marvin Harrison Jr. should win the Biletnikoff, but that guy definitely has earned a trip, I think, to the award show because he's their best player.
Which, by the way, Ryan Day was fined.
Yeah, I love that. By the way,
I'm calling this a pick 'em because Kansas State's a 1.5-point favorite. They're home against Oklahoma State. Adrian Martinez is questionable right now, but I really like Oklahoma State to win this game in New Manhattan, Kansas. Give me Oklahoma State. Pick 'em.
I'll take Kansas State on this one. Here's an interesting one.
Yeah, go ahead.
3:30, world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Florida versus Georgia. Florida is a 23-point underdog. I'll take Florida there because Georgia's shown us that they could be vulnerable. And if that AR-15 or whatever, that quarterback comes to play, it could be interesting.
I like Florida to cover, but I like Georgia to win.
Okay. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Okay.
This one, 7:30, little brother versus big brother. Michigan State is a 23-point underdog.
Just because it's the rivalry, I want to take Michigan State to cover, but I still think Michigan wins solidly. I think they win by 3 scores, but it's like 17 points. I'm thinking maybe like 31-14.
I'm going to take Michigan with the point. I'm going to take Michigan -23 because Michigan State proved us they're hot garbage. There's nothing redeemable about them, and it's literally at Michigan too. So I honestly think like that line. I feel like it's baiting you to take the points, but Michigan's going to blow the doors off of them.
Here's an interesting one. Out of the American Athletic Conference, Cincinnati travels to Orlando to take on UCF. It's a pick 'em. UCF a 1.5-point favorite. Give me the Knights. Something screams UCF, the 2018 national champions.
I'll take Cincinnati because I feel like Cincinnati's getting hot.
All righty. How many games is that?
Oh man, I don't know. 1, 2, hold on. This is not my best showing today because I just feel like crap. 3, 4, 5, 5. So we got 4 more. Kentucky, Tennessee at home -12.
Give me Kentucky to cover, but I still think Tennessee wins and a good one.
I'm gonna have to take Kentucky to cover just because their defense is pretty good. It's weird. It's like this is literally offense versus defense this game.
By the way, I have to change my tiebreaker because getting ready to start on FS1 is Utah and Washington State. So I have to do my tiebreaker. And don't laugh. Do not laugh. I'm changing my tiebreaker to Northwestern at Iowa, and I'm taking the Wildcats to cover that 11-point. They are 11-point dogs to Iowa. There's no way Iowa beats Northwestern by 11 points unless their defense scores all the touchdowns.
There's no way they're putting up 11. They got to put up 11 first.
Give me Northwestern to cover that.
I like it. All right, let's do like two more.
That's my new tiebreaker.
Let's do two more, buddy. Well, wow, Wake Forest is top 10.
What about this one? FCA. I mean, how about out of where game day's at? Jacksonville State and Southern. We'll do this one just because game day's there.
Give me Jacksonville State.
Give me Southern. I don't even know what the point spread is.
I don't either. I like Jacksonville.
Oh, they don't. It's a pick 'em. They don't even have point spreads for it.
Yeah, I'll take Jacksonville State.
Give me Jackson State. They're 7-0. Southern's 5-2. Give me Jackson State as well.
I love it. All right. Last one, I guess. Notre Dame at number 16, Syracuse. Syracuse -2.5 favorite at home.
You know what? Give me. Why do I scream? It's a Notre Dame victory. Like, I don't want to pick Notre Dame, but I feel like this is a Notre Dame victory. So give me Notre Dame.
I feel like Syracuse emptied the tank against Clemson. Sadly, they just gassed out too. They choked and they gassed out. So I'll take Notre Dame. I think they're beginning to hit their stride and they look a little more competent than they started out. So I'll say Notre Dame. Yeah, and we do need that. So that would be a big win for Marcus Freeman.
Yes. Give me the Irish.
But that's all the picks I got.
Yeah, me too. Tomorrow night I'm driving an hour and 45 minutes to Shenandoah. Burn Union versus Shenandoah. OHSA playoffs. Week 1.
Fun. Tomorrow night I'm just gonna curl up in a ball and just go to sleep because I'm sick and I'm just so tired.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I've got 4 stitches in my ankle right now. So
oof. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's brutal.
Yeah, brutal week at work. So I hope everybody enjoys the game. Enjoy the World Series. Go Phillies.
Shout out Citizens Bank Ballpark. That's my company.
Go Phillies.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's all I got.
All I got.
All right. So as always, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Bunch of Nuts podcast. And as always, go Bucks.
Bucks.